Okay, so the topic is how to tell your boss you want some time off work. That's not actually what I'm going to tell you how to do. I'm going to show you a little activity that I was asked to put together as part of a how can I extract some of the activity types and things that are in Rise and make something sort of similar. And one of the activity types was to create a sort of choose your own adventure type storyline, but create it in a way that is really, really simple using very basic JavaScript, HTML, keeping it simple. So I'll show you how it works, what it does, then I'll show you what the code looks like. And for those who are into code, I'll show you the JavaScript, I will show you the HTML and the CSS and how it's all pieced together. And if you're interested, let me know, and I might even put some of the code up there for you. But this is what the activity does. So deciding how to tell your boss you want some time off, you click Start the Activity. Your boss is busy on the phone when you walk into the office, so you interrupt the call as your question is more important, or wait until the boss has finished talking on the phone. Obviously, we just interrupt. And it says there may be a more appropriate response, so try again. Let's do that. All right, so maybe it should be wait until the boss has finished talking on the phone. So let's do that. Okay, so the boss says, how can I help you today? I hope you don't mind interrupting. I just have an important question I want to ask, or I'm your best and hardest worker and I deserve a break. That's me, but that's not appropriate either, so try again. Okay, let's go with the not interrupting. Boss, sure, what do you need? Me, I need to get away from this place, it's driving me crazy. It's probably not appropriate. I was wondering if I could have some time off work next week? Question mark. Boss, sure, that's fine. Let me know how much time you need, and we are successful, and then we can restart the activity by clicking restart. That's the little activity and the process. So yes, it's interactive, it's very basic, but it allows students to sort of make their choices about a conversation and see what it looks like. So let's have a look at the code behind it. This is the code behind it. Let me explain. That's basically all of the HTML that makes up this document. What we did is create, obviously here is the scenario. So that's the scenario up here. That bit all makes sense. It's nice and simple. Then we have our class called choice activity, and that's used to allow the JavaScript to know where to look for all of this information, because this might be embedded in a page in some other HTML content that you've got. And the little bit of JavaScript that we start is called choice activity. And when we tell it to start choice activity, we're basically saying start this activity starting at 0, and 0 means item number 1. Okay, so the activity data, this little area here, is what makes up the quiz. And it's really quite simple. If we have a look at this start of it, boss is busy on the phone when you walk into the office, you'll see that the message is boss is busy on the phone when you walk into the office. You'll also notice that the question 1 and question 2 are there, question 1, question 2. Could have had more questions, not limited to 2. And I'll fix up a typo there because it's got the letter I twice. Now the data value, all that does is basically tell this little process that if somebody clicks on the first question, or they click on this particular question, it will jump to the next item in the list. If they click on the second one, it will jump 2 items ahead in the list. So you can jump to whichever, as many items forward or backwards as you want. And it's based on the current item. From this item here, we either go, if I click on this one, it'll take me forward 1, which will be, there may be a more appropriate response. So I'll try that. There we go. Now, because I'm now on this item, there may be a more appropriate response. If I now press try again, it goes -1, which means it takes me back to this item. So it reverts back to this one, back to the boss is busy on the phone. If we jump through to our next item here, boss, how can I help you today? So we'll go to that. Boss, how can I help you today? If I click on the first answer, it says, hope you don't mind me interrupting. It jumps 2 ahead. So 2 ahead is 1, 2, and we're there. Obviously, if I say that, I deserve a break and I'm the best worker here, it's probably not appropriate. So that takes me forward to there may be a more appropriate response, which gives you one button. There we go, one button, which is try again, and it's -1. So when they click on try again, it takes them back to the item before. If we jump all the way to the end, you'll see that it has item, message, boss, sure, that's fine. Let me know how much time you need. And then this one here doesn't actually have a data value because although it's clickable, it just takes you back to restart the whole thing anyway. Or you can have data value equals 0, which takes you back to 0, is just a custom one that I put in there to take you right back to the start. So if you put 0 in, it'll take you to the right to the beginning. Everything else will take you either forwards or backwards, the number of items that you choose. So that's the HTML, which means you can create your own activity over here on the left. And I'm just going to check that that typo fixed itself up. There we go. Typo's all fixed up now. So how does the rest of this all work? A simple little bit of code back here. We've got some CSS that just makes it look like that. So that gives us that little speech bubble type look. And the buttons for them to press on. We're now going to look at the code, and the code is activated using our on-click choice start the activity, which is this button right here. So when we do start the activity, we just click start activity and that opens up the very first panel. How does that all work? This is the code. It's quite simple, well, relatively simple. It's a function called choice activity. It has a node in there which we didn't end up using, but it was still there. We can remove that. A is the current item that we're on. In this case, it's 0. Obviously, if it's undefined, we can make it 0 so that we're starting at 0, which is the first item in the activity. First item meaning this one here, item 0. So we go and grab our activity data, and our activity data just there is using query selector activity data, and there's activity data class, which is all of this information in here that will generate this activity. We also get our activity display, which again is just up here. That's just a div that's empty. Inside that is where all of this appears. Now, quite simple. Our activity display in a HTML, we clear that out first. So this is this area here. We want to make that empty because every time you click on one of these buttons, it activates this function again. And then so that clears it out and then it refills it with the new information based on A and what A actually represents, what number A is. In this case, 0 to start with. So we go and grab all of our items. So this is the .item class. Here they are here, .item. You can see them all listed down there. We grab all of those items, first off, and then we choose just item A, in our case, item 0. We make sure that there is a message in there, and by a message I mean class equals message and there's some text in there. If there's nothing in there, it will cause an undefined error if we try to use it. So we need to make sure that message is actually defined first. If it is, we create a div element, we add a class to it, so it gives it the speech bubble look. We add the content from the message. So there's message there and the inner HTML inside message. There's the inner HTML. We grab that and we put that inside our new divs inner HTML. Then we add that, so it's append child, add that to our activity display. So that's the first part of adding that speech bubble bit there. The next part is adding the questions. And because there could be more than one question, we have to loop through however many questions there are. So we grab our questions first of all, which live inside the items A, in this case 0, with questions. And you can see here we have two questions. So we're grabbing 2 of those. Notice the data value, 1 and 2. We're going to use that in a moment. So we go, create a new div. We're going to loop through them, remember, loop through our questions. Create a new div. We're going to set the attribute for this one to class QItem. That just gives it the blue background. We set the data value to the data value of that particular question. So in this case, it's 1 for this one and 2 for this one. We then go to our inner HTML and we add the question text. So we're adding this text in here or here, depending on which question we're looking at. We add that. We also add an on-click, and this on-click adds to this div, which means people can now click on that div and it will do something. So first of all, for this div, we've already added the data value attribute. So we're just choosing new A. So this is the function that happens when someone clicks on that button. This function happens. So they click on that, it goes and finds the data value of this button, which we added up here. It then checks to make sure that it doesn't equal 0, or that it is an integer to start with, and equals 0. Otherwise we can set a to 0, which means it's back to the start. Otherwise we can go k, which k is our new number. So then we set a variable called k, which is a plus the new data variable. In this case, it's, if we go back to our first one here, we're on question or item 0, and the data value is 1. So we're on 0 and it becomes 1. So we add 0 plus 1 gives us k, which means when they click on this button, it will go to choice activity, repeat this whole function, but with k meaning 1. So now that will go back through, it'll clean everything out again. It will go back through and find item number 1. So there we go, we're up to item number 1 now, and it will show whatever the content is there in the same way as what we just did, but loop over and over and over as you work your way through all of the items. Hopefully that makes sense to you. There's a whole collection of activities and things you can create using fairly basic JavaScript HTML. Let me know. I'll be keen to put some more videos up and show you more about that. Make sure you subscribe because there'll be lots more coming, and I'll talk to you very soon.